The city of Lagos was alive with Itujo chaos. The streets buzzed with cars, traders shouting at the top of their voices. Amidst the noise and movement, in one of the most luxurious estates in Victoria Island, stood a mansion that symbolized power, wealth, and influence. It belonged to Richard Williams. He was a business mogul, known for his generosity, charm, and an empire that stretched across oil, real estate, and banking. But behind the lavish lifestyle, the expensive suits, and the smile that deceived many, Richard was something far more sinister, a devoted occultist. His sacrifices were the foundation of his wealth. His prize was his own children. Richard's wife, Sophia, was the perfect picture of a woman in love. She had everything: a husband who adored her, a mansion many could only dream of, designer clothes, vacations in Paris, and every comfort life had to offer. Yet, beneath the perfect life, she was drowning in silent pain. She had given birth 6 times, and 6 times her babies had turned to yam mysteriously before they could even turn a few months old. Each time she gave birth, after a couple of weeks, she would wake up to see a yam in her child's cradle instead of the baby. Richard would wake up at midnight. He would hold the baby close, whisper incantations, and in moments, the innocent child would transform into a yam. Richard would then take the yam to a secret temple deep within the city, offering it as a sacrifice to the dark forces that granted him wealth and power. Sophia would weep in his arms, but Richard was always there to wipe her tears. Each time she lost a child, he would distract her: a new car, a trip to Dubai, diamond jewelry, anything to keep her from asking too many questions. And it worked, until Daniel was born. Sophia clutched baby Daniel in her arms, watching as he sucked hungrily on her breast. He was beautiful, just like all the others. But this time, something felt different. Her mother's instinct screamed at her. This child was meant to live. Richard entered the room at night, smiling as he always did. "Sophia, my love," he said, brushing her head gently. "You need to rest. The baby should be in the cradle. You know how fragile newborns are. The baby will be safe there." Sophia felt her chest tighten. A sharp fear shot through her. Not this time. She clutched Daniel tightly and forced a smile. "No, Richard. I will keep him close. I will not lose another child." For the first time in years, she saw something flicker in Richard's eyes: panic. That night, Sophia had a dream. She saw a dark cave with a blood-stained altar. 6 yams were placed before an unseen entity, and a voice whispered, "If the 7th child survives 6 months, the covenant shall be broken, and the master shall take what is due." She woke up with a scream. Sophia knew something evil was lurking in her home. She was going to find out the truth. Sophia had never been the overly religious type, but that dream terrified her. She needed help. Someone who could explain what was happening. That was how she found Pastor Michael. He was a humble but powerful man of God, known for exposing hidden darkness. The moment she walked into his office, carrying baby Daniel, the pastor froze. He closed his eyes and prayed silently before opening them to look at her. "My daughter," he said gently, "your husband is not who you think he is." Sophia's heart stopped. Pastor Michael continued, his voice grave. "He has sacrificed all your children to maintain his wealth, and Daniel is next, but he will not succeed." Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she held Daniel tighter. "What do I do, Pastor?" she asked in a broken whisper. Pastor Michael smiled. "You have to pray, and I will pray also, and this child will live." As the weeks passed, Richard grew restless. He watched Daniel with growing dread, his heart pounding every time he looked at the child. 5 months had passed. Only 1 more month before everything crumbled. One night, Richard went to his temple, hidden in the depths of Lagos. The 6 yams sat before him, each one representing a child he had sacrificed. His master's voice echoed through the temple. The 7th child must be taken before 6 months, or you shall be taken in his place. Richard fell to his knees. Master, I have tried, but my wife hooked onto him, and there is a force protecting the boy. Silence! Then the voice spoke again, in a whisper, so cold, it made Richard shiver. Kill the woman! Richard's blood ran cold. Could he do it? He had given up his children. He had given up his soul. But Sophia. That night, as Sophia slept beside Daniel, Richard stood over them, watching the rise and fall of her chest. His hands trembled. His mind screamed. Could he really kill the woman he loved? The moment Daniel turned 6 months old, a strange wind blew through Richard's mansion. The luxurious chandelier swayed violently. The windows shattered. The air grew thick, carrying a scent of blood and decay. Richard felt it. Something had entered the house. Something that was coming for him. He stumbled back, his body breaking into a cold sweat. His heart slammed against his ribs. He had failed his master. The price had to be paid. From the corner of the room, a deep, guttural voice echoed. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It was neither human nor animal. You broke the covenant, Richard. Richard's breath hitched. He turned, eyes darting in terror. The walls of the mansion began to bleed. Thick, black liquid seeped through the expensive wallpaper, oozing onto the floor like a living thing. The air was filled with the cries of infants, his lost children, screaming from the abyss where he had sent them. Then a shadow moved. It stretched and twisted, morphing into something horrifying. A tall, faceless figure, its body wrapped in rotten black clothes, its fingers long and knife-sharp. The entity's form flickered, shifting between a monstrous being and a mass of darkness. It took a step forward. You were warned, Richard. Richard staggered backward, his hands trembling. No, no, he screamed. I can fix it. I will find a way. But the entity laughed, a sound so unnatural, so horrifying, that Richard collapsed to his knees. The 7th child lives. Your time is up. Sophia had been praying in her room when the first scream tore through the house. She jumped, clutching Daniel against her chest. Something was happening. The air was thick with a darkness she could not see, but she could feel it, a suffocating evil presence. Then, from the shadows, a voice whispered her name, Sophia. Her breath caught in her throat. She spun around. A figure stood in the corner of the room. At first, it looked like a man. Then it shifted. Its head twisted unnaturally. Its limbs elongated. Its body covered in written shadows. Its voice glittered like a serpent. Your husband has lied to you. Tears ran down Sophia's face. Who are you? She choked out. The figure stepped closer. And then, suddenly, the room shifted. Sophia was no longer in her bedroom. She was standing in a dark cave, surrounded by 6 large yams, each soaked in what smelled like blood. The air was thick with decay, and in the center of the room was an altar, blackened with ancient sacrifices. And beside it, Richard stood, chanting in a strange tongue, holding a newborn baby in his arms. Sophia screamed. The baby turned into a yam before her very eyes. And then, the vision vanished. She was back in her room. But now, she knew the truth. Her 6 children had never died. Richard had sacrificed them. She staggered backward, her entire body shaking in horror and rage. She could still hear the whispers of her lost children, crying out from the abyss where their souls had been sent. And then she heard another sound, Richard screaming downstairs. Richard tried to run, but the house had come alive. The walls melted into darkness, stretching and twisting, turning the luxurious mansion into a living nightmare. Hands reached out from the shadows, grabbing at his clothes, pulling at his skin. Then from the center of the room, the entity grew larger. It no longer looked like just a shadow. It was a mass of writhing, screaming faces, each one a soul Richard had sent to the abyss. His children were among them. "Daddy!" A small broken voice rose above the others. Richard's blood ran cold. He turned slowly and saw 6 children standing before him. His lost children. Their eyes were hollow, their bodies dripped with blood. Their tiny hands reached out to him. "Daddy, why did you do this to us?" Richard let out a horrified scream. "No, no!" He turned to the entity. "Please, give me another chance." The shadowed figure extended a long clawed hand. "You know the rules, Richard. The 7th child survived. Now you must take their place." Richard opened his mouth to scream, but his body twisted violently. His flesh shrunk. His bones cracked. Within seconds, he was no longer a man. Where Richard Williams had stood now lay a massive blood-stained yam, and as the entity reached for it, the house shook with unearthly laughter. Upstairs, Sophia held Daniel tightly, tears rolling down her face as the house rumbled violently. She ran. She didn't look back. The screams behind her were not human anymore. She didn't stop running until she reached Pastor Michael's church. The child clutched against her chest. The moment she crossed the church threshold, a powerful wave of peace washed over her, and behind her, miles away, the mansion collapsed into the ground, swallowed by the darkness that had once controlled it. For months, Sophia and Daniel lived in the church, praying daily. But every night, when Sophia closed her eyes, she heard it, a faint whisper in the dark. "Sophia!" A shadow moved in the corner. The nightmare wasn't over yet. Sophia lay awake in the small church room, her heart pounding against her ribs. The air felt thick and heavy, as though something unseen was pressing down on her. Beside her, little Daniel slept peacefully, his tiny chest rising and falling. But Sophia couldn't rest. The whispers had started again. "Sophia!" The voice was low, raspy, barely above a breath, yet it echoed in her skull like a thunderclap. She sat up, gripping the edge of the thin mattress. The room was dimly lit, the weak glow of the candle on the table flickering unnaturally, as if something was breathing near it. She turned slowly and froze. In the farthest corner of the room, a figure stood tall, cloaked in darkness. Its face was hidden, but its presence was unmistakable. Richard, or what was left of him. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. Her husband was dead. She had seen him transform into that monstrous yam. She had seen the mansion swallowed by darkness. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. Yet, when the figure took a step forward, the air grew cold, so cold that frost curved along the wooden floor. "You think it's over?" the voice growled, deep and distorted. "You think you can run?" Sophia's hands shook. She grabbed Daniel, pressing him against her chest. "Leave me alone," she whispered harshly, her voice barely holding back her terror. The shadow laughed, a horrible twisted sound that made her skin crawl. "I can never leave, Sophia. I am bound to you. To him. You took my sacrifice. Now you must give me another." The door burst open, and Pastor Michael rushed in, his face grim and alert. Sophia whirled around, but when she turned back, the figure was gone. The room was silent again, except for Daniel's gentle breathing. Pastor Michael's brow furrowed. "You saw him, didn't you?" Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. "Pastor, I don't understand. He's dead. He's gone. Why is he still here?" Pastor Michael walked into the room, his presence filling it with a strange warmth. He placed a firm hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Sophia, listen to me. Richard may be dead, but his soul still lingers." Sophia shivered. "Why? Why can't he just go?" The pastor's face darkened. "Because he doesn't belong to God. His soul was bound to the dark covenant, and now that he has failed his master, he's trapped between our world and the abyss." Sophia's heartbeat quickened. "What does that mean for me? For Daniel?" Pastor Michael's expression was grave. "It means he will never stop coming for his son." The words sent a chill down Sophia's spine. His son? She whispered. Why? He wanted him dead before. The pastor is healed. Yes, but now he needs him. Because Richard has become something else. He's not just a lost soul. He's cursed. Sophia hugged Daniel tighter. What can we do? How do we stop him? The pastor's eyes glowed with determination. We must break the covenant permanently. Sophia swallowed hard. How? Pastor Michael hesitated. There is only one way, he said finally. We must find the buried yams, your lost children, and we must burn them in holy fire. Sophia's blood ran cold. She didn't want to see them. Didn't want to face the horrors Richard had done. But if it was the only way to protect Daniel, she nodded slowly. Tell me what to do. That night, under the cover of darkness, Sophia and Pastor Michael drove to the ruins of Richard's mansion. What was once a grand estate was now a hollow graveyard of ash and twisted shadows. The air still smelled of burnt wood and something rotten. Pastor Michael held up a lantern, its weak glow barely piercing the unnatural darkness surrounding them. Be careful, he warned. This land is still cursed. Sophia shivered but followed him. As they reached the backyard, a sudden gust of wind howled, carrying with it distant whispers. You shouldn't have come back. Sophia froze. Did you hear that? She whispered. The pastor's jaw tightened. Ignore it. We don't have much time. He pulled out a shovel and began to dig. The earth was strangely soft, almost as if it was breathing. Every time the shovel hit the ground, the whispers grew louder. Don't do this. You'll regret it. They are watching. Then, third, the shovel hit something hard. Sophia's stomach churned. Pastor Michael knelt and brushed the dust away. And then, half buried in the ground, lay a yam. But it wasn't like any yam she had ever seen. It was swollen, pulsing, as though something inside was alive. Its surface was covered in dark veins, and it was a thick, black liquid. Pastor Michael grabbed it, his hands trembling. This is one of them. Sophia gagged, stepping back. Then the yam moved. It twitched violently, as if something inside was trying to break free. Then from its surface, a tiny hand burst out. Sophia screamed. Pastor Michael shouted, "Now!" He pulled out a bottle of anointing oil and poured it over the yam. The moment the oil touched it, a horrifying scream erupted, a scream that was not human, not child, but something far worse. The ground shook, the scream twisted, and suddenly from the depth of the ruins, Richard rose. He was no longer human. His flesh was blackened and cracked, his limbs unnaturally elongated, his mouth stretched into an endless gaping hole, dripping with tar like blood. His eyes burned red, locked onto Sophia. You took everything from me, he hissed, her body frozen in fear. Richard's grotesque form lunged at her, moving unnaturally fast. But before he could touch her, Pastor Michael lit a match and dropped it. The yam erupted in flames. Richard let out a blood-curdling shriek, his form twisting and writhing as the fire consumed the cursed object. His screams pierced the night, the very air vibrating with unholy agony. The ground cracked open beneath him, and from within, dark, clawed hands emerged, dragging him down. Richard thrashed, his horrifying form pulled into the abyss. His final scream was one of pure, undiluted terror. Then, silence. The night air grew still. The shadows vanished, and Sophia knew it wasn't over yet. Because they had only found one yam, and there were still 5 more, buried somewhere in the dark. The oppressive silence that followed Richard's horrific demise was almost deafening. Sophia stood there, breathless, her heart hammering in her chest. The fire cracked loudly in the darkness, but the scene around her was almost unreal. Pastor Michael looked at the remnant of the fire, his face pale and worn, as though he had aged years in the span of mere minutes. His hand trembled, but his voice was steady. We have to find the others. Sophia nodded silently, his eyes fixed on the ashes where Richard had once stood. Her thoughts were a blur of confusion and dread. The nightmare wasn't over. It couldn't be. The truth was undeniable now. Richard had not only been an occultist, but something far worse. A man who had sealed his fate at the fate of those around him through a satanic pact. The pact had involved the sacrifice of his children, their lives transformed into the monstrous cursed yams that would forever tie their souls to him. And the worst part, there were still 5 more to find. Pastor Michael turned to Sophia, his face grin. We need to go back to the mansion. It's where this started. It's where the other yams are hidden. Sophia's heart sank. She had seen the mansion burn, but Pastor Michael was right. The land itself was cursed, and if the other yams were buried there, that was where they would need to search. Together, they set off towards the wreckage, the night air heavy with an eerie chill that seemed to follow them. The streets of Lagos were quiet, as if the city itself was holding its breath. The next day, they set out again for the mansion to find the other yams. By the time they arrived at the mansion, the first light of dawn was breaking across the horizon. The once grand home was now an abandoned skeleton. The air smelled of ash and decay, but there was something different about it now. The land itself seemed to breathe. The soil was dark, almost as if it were alive, watching them. Sophia shrugged. I don't want to be here. Pastor Michael placed a reassuring hand on her arm. We have no choice. We must face this evil once and for all. As they made their way through the wreckage, every step seemed to draw them deeper into the heart of darkness. The ground felt soft beneath their feet, almost as if the earth was swallowing them. They approached the spot where the first yam had been unearthed, and Pastor Michael knelt down. His fingers brushed the soil, and he began to chant softly under his breath. The words of the prayer, unfamiliar and powerful. Sophia watched, anxiety building in her chest. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the earth. The ground before them split open, and from the cracks, hands, black and gnawed, reached up. Sophia screamed, backing away. Pastor Michael did not move. Instead, he continued his prayers, his voice growling louder, a command in each word. The hands withdrew, and from the earth emerged another yam. This one, larger and even more grotesque than the last. It pulsed with a sickly glow, and as it came into full view, Sophia saw something horrifying. A tiny face, distorted and trapped inside the yam, its eyes wide in terror. God, Sophia whispered, her knees buckling beneath her. She had to look away. She couldn't bear to see it. Pastor Michael stood, his expression unwavering. We must destroy it, just like the first. But as he moved to take the anointing from his back, the ground shook again, more violently this time, as if the very earth was fighting back. Suddenly, the yam cracked open, and from within it, a creature emerged, half human, half monster. Its form a twisted mockery of humanity. Its mouth opened wide in a scream of pure rage, and the air around them grew heavy with an overpowering stench. It lunged at Pastor Michael with unnatural speed, its claws slashing through the air. Sophia barely had time to react. With a scream, she grabbed Michael and ran, the nightmarish creature chasing them. The shadows seemed to shift, as if the very darkness was alive. Sophia and Pastor Michael ran through the wreckage, the ground beneath them cracking and shifting with every step. The creature howled behind them, its voice piercing the still night. The mansion's remains seemed to close in around them. The air grew thick with a foul stench. Sophia stumbled, falling to her knees, but Pastor Michael grabbed her, pushing her forward. "Keep going," he shouted. "We have to reach the church." Sophia nodded. Though her body screamed in exhaustion, she could hear the creature closing in, its heavy breath behind her. They made it to the edge of the property, where the creature landed once again. It was caught by a burst of light. Pastor Michael had raised his hand, and from his fingers a brilliant light poured forth, casting a blinding glow across the ruins. The creature screamed in agony, its form dissolving into shadow, unable to withstand the holy light. Finally, it disappeared, leaving nothing but a faint whiff of smoke and the stench of burning flesh. But as the silence settled, a new terror gripped Sophia's heart. She turned to Pastor Michael, her voice barely a whisper. "Is it over?" The pastor looked at her, his eyes filled with sorrow. "No, Sophia, this is only the beginning. They returned to the church, exhausted and shaking. Pastor Michael collapsed into a chair. His face pale and sweat drenched. Sophia sat beside him, holding Daniel close, still unable to fully comprehend the horrors they had just faced. "We have destroyed two," Pastor Michael said quietly, his voice grim. "But there are still 3 left." Sophia's stomach twisted in dread. "3?" He nodded. "The yams, the children, they are still out there, and they are not done with us yet." Sophia gripped Daniel tighter, feeling the weight of the truth settle on her chest like a crushing stone. "Where are they?" she whispered, the fear in her voice undeniable. Pastor Michael's eyes flickered with hesitation. "I don't know." He looked at her with a mixture of sorrow and fear. "But one thing is certain, the curse will follow you wherever you go." Sophia shuddered. The fight was far from over. There were still more horrors to come, and the nightmare wasn't finished yet. To be continued. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you have learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more enchanting tales just like this one. See you on the next one. Thank you and God bless. Bye.